Hello, Unbrick Me here with a look at the LEGO Technic Peugeot 9x8 24 hours Mans Hybrid Hypercar. This set has so many cool aspects and amazing functions. However, it lacks a gearbox. So, is it still worth the $200 price tag? In order to find out, let's start with the box. This set comes with 1,775 pieces and it will be released on May 1st. Let's open it up and see what's inside. We get 5 numbered bags and some very interesting pieces like these brand new L flip-flop beams, the shock absorbers from the BMW motorcycle, the mudguard panels, as well as these black tapered panels that were first introduced in the Lamborghini. There's also a white envelope that contains 2 large sticker sheets as well as the gorgeous instructions which state that this car was designed by Casper Hansen. The building process begins with the following frame and differential module, and we just add some beams with axles here. Following that, we insert some wheel hubs attached to lift arms. The wheel hubs themselves get connected to the differential with some axles. They are secured further with even more beams. Next, we create the shock absorber section and connect it to the chassis. This results in the suspension on the rear wheels, and the mechanism is absolutely incredible. A frame with a beam is added, and now we can finally build the V6 engine. It simply connects to the differential using an 8-tooth gear. These 3x19 frame modules are constructed and they connect to the chassis on either side. These are reinforced with the lift arm. Some engine exhaust modules are built up and they simply connect to the sides of the engine. Some small panels are connected to cover the engine. This 90-degree frame section is constructed and we attach it to the chassis, and this is for the hand of God steering. This is the first bag, and the second stage begins with a tiny green section and it just connects to the front of the chassis. That is followed up with another green module and it essentially makes up the seat of the car. On the other side, some flexible rods are connected. These 3x19 frame modules are built up and they are secured on either side of the chassis. The flexible rods connect to one of these frames. Now comes the fun part. After the frames are reinforced with a beam, an axle with a 16-tooth gear is put through, and we also connect a biscuit piece with another gear here. On the other side, we just attach a few beams to extend the chassis to the sides. Here we have a green frame with a differential connected to a fake electric motor, and it just goes on top of another frame. A gear rack is inserted as well as 2 12-tooth gears. Only one of them will actually connect to the hand of God steering. A few more beams, axles, and wheel attachments are added onto the module. Then we connect 2 wheel hubs to the differential on either side of this section. As we do that, we must attach the Technic linkers from the gear rack onto the wheel hubs. As you can see, the steering mechanism works beautifully, and that second useless gear on the left simply serves as a stopper. Now we need to add a shock absorber here, and it is secured with some beams. A marriage process between the front and rear sections of the chassis occurs. A beam, a frame, and the steering yoke are added to the front. Make sure to keep the steering yoke and the wheel hubs straight as you slide the blue 12-tooth gear in. Now we can begin working on the third stage, which begins with the following roof section, and it simply goes on top of the car chassis. It is reinforced with a lift arm, and then we connect 2 more panels to the roof. 2 small frames are added here on either side. This system brick module is constructed, which simply connects on top of the roof, and a hand of God steering knob is inserted. 2 of the following panel sections are attached onto the sides of the chassis. On the back, we connect a small panel. Then, we build up 2 of these large frames and they secure both sides on the back of the chassis. On the side, we add a panel section as well as another panel on top of it, and 3 smaller ones are connected here. Next, we build up this awesome little door and it simply connects to the left side. The same thing is done on the other side, starting with a panel as well as a flat one on top of it. Some L-beams secure the large rear panel, and then we add 3 more smaller panels on top of it. Now a door is secured to the right side of the car. A beam panel module connects here as well as to the other side of the car. This is the third stage, and now we can work on the fourth, which begins with these 2 awesome frame sections. These are connected just like so, and a panel module is built up which just connects here in the middle. Some system bricks are added here as well as 2 tiny panels. Some more of the brake lights are added. A spoiler with the car's brand name is attached, and some tiny green sections connect to the sides. This massive gray module comprised of a bunch of panels is constructed, and it just loosely attaches to the top of the rear. This is the fourth stage, and the fifth one begins with this small panel and a frame section. This just slides to the front of the car. 2 headlight sections are built up and they connect right over here. They are secured further with a small panel section. Right in front of the driver's seat, an arc is connected. On top of the front, we add some beams, and this section, mainly comprised of 2 large panels, simply connects to the top. It essentially serves as an openable hood. We add even more small panels for the shaping, and now the wheel arcs connect to the front on both sides. Some panels behind the mudguards are connected, and on top of the car we secure some beams as well as rear view mirrors. 4 wheels are attached to the car, and before we can take a closer look at this beauty, would you like to see even more early reviews as well as a comparison between this set and the 2015 version? Then make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. No pressure though, no pressure. Let's start with functions. The suspension is actually fully independent despite using only a single shock absorber for a single pair of wheels. This is a very interesting mechanism, and it's one I've never seen before in LEGO Technic. This is the rear pair of wheels and the front one uses the same mechanism, but the shock absorber is on the other side. In practice, the rear wheels have a lot more travel than the front ones. I'd like to point out this beautiful V6 engine. It is directly connected to the rear differential with some 8-tooth gears, meaning there is absolutely no transmission in this set, and the only thing resembling a 7-speed gearbox is nothing more than a sticker on a panel on the underside of the car. Fortunately, you can see the engine's pistons quite well here, and it's very fun to watch as you move the rear wheels. The front pair of wheels also has a differential, although it is the newer one that was first introduced in the Top Gear rally car, unlike the more traditional differential used in the back. This spinning thing here that the differential is connected to is actually an electric motor. This is how the real car works. It has an engine in the back and an electric motor in the front. However, in LEGO Technic, an electric motor connected to a differential looks somewhat useless and ridiculous. Of course, this car does have hand of God steering, but you can remove the top knob if you choose to. On top of that, if we open up the left door, we will see the steering yoke in action. It is always nice whenever we get both hand of God steering as well as the working steering wheel on the inside, instead of just one of these functions. Opening the front hood will let us look at the steering mechanism more closely. The gear on the right connects to the steering yoke and the hand of God mechanism. The gear on the left just serves as a stopper, but beyond that, it is useless. The doors open up in a similar way to the butterfly doors on the McLaren Senna GTR, and they look absolutely beautiful. Here's a feature you probably didn't expect. The headlights can actually glow in the dark. This looks so awesome. It's as if the headlights are powering on as soon as you turn off the lights. By the way, they aren't actually this bright, and they look more like this with your eyes. The aesthetics of this car are truly something incredible. It might be the best designed Technic model in terms of its looks. I especially appreciate the rear of the car. The brake lights are done absolutely phenomenally, and it's quite realistic to the real-life counterpart. The sides are beautiful as well. I do have one complaint, which is the open front above the wheels. I understand that the real car also has open wheels, but not to the same extent as the Technic counterpart. I do believe that the gaps here should have been smaller. You could also make the argument that this car has an exposed shock absorber and that you can easily see a lot of the mechanisms inside, but I actually view this as a massive positive, since I believe that in a Technic set, functionality takes priority, and being able to see the working mechanisms inside is absolutely amazing. Despite the car being quite paneled up, I appreciate that you can just easily take off the whole back panel section, and you can instantly take a look at the differential, the engine, and more. This is something that you simply cannot say about a lot of Technic sets, and in those other ones, it is much more difficult to get a closer look at the internal mechanisms. Speaking of the internal mechanisms, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the lack of a gearbox. The 2015 24 Hours race car had 556 less pieces, but with that, it still looked just as good and even had a gearbox with motor upgradability using the Power Functions accessory box. As a result, I see no reason why the Peugeot can't have a gearbox. I'm not saying we need a 7-speed transmission, just a simple 2-function distribution gearbox would be perfectly fine. Even with the lack of a gearbox, I still think that this set has plenty of value. First of all, it is a great display piece. Second, it has a lot of cool and interesting building techniques. Third, it introduces a lot of new pieces, like those L flip-flop beams. If those 3 things sound interesting to you, then you should buy this set. I have so much more interesting content lined up for you, like various comparisons between sets, what's the future of LEGO Technic, and much more. This is your Unbrick Me here, and I'll see you in the next one.